Power boosting through coil short circuiting. The rotoverter output and the Muller motor/generator output, and possibly, the Adams motor output, can be increased very substantially by a technique developed by Cohn, the moderator of the EVGRAY Yahoo forum already mentioned. The technique is to place a dead short circuit across each output coil, just as the magnetic field of that coil reaches a maximum. This is done 5 times in rapid succession and can boost the output power by an estimated factor of 100 times. On the surface, it appears complete madness to place a short circuit across the very output which you are generating as the whole point of the exercise. However, it is not as mad as it seems. At the peak point, the coil itself contains a large amount of energy, and when a short circuit is placed across it, the result is quite unusual. The effect of short-circuiting an iron cord coil has been demonstrated by Ron Pugh of Canada with a bench test using this equipment. Here, a device for measuring magnetic fields is sensing the magnetic field of the coil as the rotor magnets move past the coil. The measurement is done with the coil operating normally and then again, with the coil short-circuited. The results are shown in these oscilloscope displays. Quite surprisingly, the magnetic field is reversed by the short circuit. If we consider just the first half of the cycle, you will notice that when the open coil has a very strong positive position, relative to a north magnetic pole, the short-circuited coil has a strong reading of the opposite polarity. Therefore, at any given instance near the peak, there is the potential for a major magnetic reversal if the coil were to be switched from the red area into the blue area and back again. You might imagine that if the coil short-circuiting were performed very rapidly, that there would be a result like this. However, this is not really possible with an iron cord coil, as it is not able to reverse its magnetization rapidly enough to produce this effect. Coils with iron cores might get up to 3,000 reversals per second, although 1,000 would probably be a more realistic figure. For higher frequencies, a ferrite core could be used, and for yet higher frequencies again, an iron dust epoxy encapsulated core is needed. For unlimited frequencies, an air core coil is used. In the rotoverter/Muller motor example where Cohn has demonstrated major energy gains, the arrangement is different to Ron Pugh's bench test example. Firstly, the magnets on the rotor present 2 poles to the coil as they pass by, giving a full, even sine wave output. Secondly, Cohn uses an air core coil, and he has the fast switching implemented to take advantage of that coil type. This screenshot shows exactly the same effect, with the oscillating pulses plunging down to exactly where the negative trace would be at that time during each of the short-circuited periods. The display is showing a 20-volt peak-to-peak waveform with each complete sine wave cycle taking 2 milliseconds. Instead of the original gradual magnetic rise to a single peak, there are now 5 very sharp magnetic reversals, each of which are substantially larger than the original peak. It is the change of magnetic flux in the pickup coil which produces the output power, so it can be seen that with this additional switching, a massive increase in flux change has been produced in the output coil. This increase is both a larger magnetic swing and a much greater rate of change of the flux, and as the rotor is spinning at some 1800 rpm and has many magnets in it, the overall magnetic power increases by a major factor. Please note that in the following diagrams produced by Cohn, the rotor magnet has a south pole which reaches the pickup coil first, followed by a north pole passing the coil. This produces an excellent sine wave output in the coil. The additional switching is performed by a mechanical brush and contact system, and the power collection circuit used for the short-circuited coil is. And when the coil is not short-circuited, the circuit is. Doug Konzen has been developing this circuitry and generously sharing his results freely. His website is at http://sites.google.com/alternativeworldenergy/shorting-coils-circuits, and his most recent practical circuit is. There is a video on the web where coil shorting is used on the output from a replication of John Bedini's window motor. John's window motor is a cylinder with magnets mounted in it, spun inside a large coil by a pulsed motor. The motor can be a self-runner, but for the coil shorting demonstration, it was just spun briefly by hand, producing voltage pulses of about 16 volts. When the coil shorting is switched on, those pulses rise to about 440 volts even. Though the coil shorting was not the optimum 5 times at peak, which would probably have raised the voltage pulses to about 1600 volts. The oscilloscope displays of the test shown on video are. I'm told that this coil shorting technique is used in industry but is considered to be a trade secret. Details of John Bedini's window motor can be found at http://www.fight-4-truth.com/schematics.html.